Josh Green here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined for the first time in a long time by Mr. Ben Shalom. How are you doing today, Ben?
Very well, good to see you.
Exciting times down here in Cardiff. Homecoming for Lauren Price, first world title opportunity, and certainly a tough test against Jessica McCaskill.
Yeah, very tough test. Probably not one we would have chosen, but the opportunity to fight in Cardiff against Jessica McCaskill in your 7th pro fight, I think the opportunity was just too much. But it is a tough test. It's in a 7th fight, to be taking on a test like this is really admirable, really special. McCaskill's never lost at welterweight. She's an 11th pro fight. We've seen what Chantel Conran's gone on to achieve after beating McCaskill. We've seen Sandy after the air draw with Sandy Ryan and Terry Harper. This is a serious fighter, and this is someone that is very new for Lauren. This and look, she wants to break records, and she always has done. And the hero status that she has here, and coming off the back of obviously winning the gold medal and getting her MBE before she even turned over. She's got a lot of expectation over here. It's going to be on BBC Wales as well. It's a long time since, I think you'd have to think back to Eubank Ben days when you're really getting it in every television in the country, and that's what it's like over here. So huge pressure, huge night, a worthy opponent, a pioneer really of women's boxing, but a really tough fight. And we're gonna see where Lauren's at.
How many fans are you expecting in the arena for Lauren on Saturday?
We're expecting a full house come Saturday, so I think that's about 4,000, but incredible. I think when we first announced it and we first decided we were going to do that, usually it's a slow build, but you forget how big Lauren is here. You know, this is someone that is a sporting hero in Wales. Like she's achieved things for their country that they'll never forget. And they're now here to see a witness history. What is amazing is just walking around Cardiff and seeing the amount of interest. You know, you go to cities all the time and there's loads going on, but everyone in Cardiff knows what's happening on Saturday night. It really is a moment in Welsh sporting history, and it's a great fight as well.
You look at the image and the career that Katie Taylor has built for herself, especially out in Ireland. Is that sort of an image that you look to build for someone like Lauren Price here in Wales?
What Katie Taylor has done in Ireland is phenomenal. I think Lauren looks at Wales and thinks, I want to have a legacy here. I want to forge my own path here. I want to do things for Welsh boxing that have never been done before. Frank Warren used to come here a lot with Joe Calzaghe, and it has an effect on the whole community. I think it's why we've been so keen on getting the Welsh fighters on this card from top to bottom. There's 5 or 6 prospects coming through. I think Gary Lockett and Enzo Macronelli have been saying there is a lot of talent here now, and there is obviously Rhys Edwards chief support, but there's a lot of talent coming through that just don't get those opportunities. But you need a star, you need a flag bearer, and Lauren, as you said, like Katie Taylor has been in Ireland, but Lauren wants to be fighting consistently here, can be that flag bearer, can allow us to come to Wales consistently, regularly. The amount of tickets that she now sells is special, and hopefully we can reignite big shows in Cardiff and the rest of Wales.
Talking of big shows, Chris Billam-Smith and Richard Riakporhe announced for Crystal Palace. Summer show out in a stadium, exciting times for both. But Chris coming away from Bournemouth and going into London, was that a big decision? Did it take some persuading?
We did try at Bournemouth. I think Chris obviously won his world title in a voluntary defence in his backyard. It's the mandatory, and now he goes to someone else's backyard as world champion. It's funny how things work, but I think Chris always takes the tests and always takes the challenges. And when we couldn't get Bournemouth Stadium, we've got a summer show, a spectacular domestic world title. And when you've got the opportunity to go to Selhurst Park over and above the Wembley arenas and the O2s that we're always at all the time, you have to take that opportunity. It's South London, very easy to get to for Bournemouth. They're putting on a lot of coaches, as they do for their away support all around the country. So I expect there actually to be a huge Bournemouth contingent in there. But Chris Billam-Smith, anyone that knows him, he's a proper fighter. He's a proper champion. He'll take on any challenge. He always has done. 6 weeks notice for Isaac Chamberlain when he first signed us, and since then he's gone on to become world champion, defending it once, and now we'll go into Selhurst Park. against the only man that's ever beat him. And yeah, it's special, and he deserves a lot of credit.
Edging on old news now, but we haven't had the chance to speak to you about it. Chris Eubank Jr, obviously now a free agent. I think his last either 4 or 5 fights have been on Sky Sports. Is there any interest in bringing him to the BOXXER stable?
Look, everyone will be interested in Chris Eubank Jr. We worked his last 4 fights. He's a great guy, and he delivers numbers. And there's not many fighters outside of AJ Fury in Britain that can really turn the dial. I think Ben Whittaker's become one. I still think Chris Eubank Jr is probably in that top 3 or 4, and every broadcaster, every promoter will be after him because of that. And yeah, we've worked with him now on 4 occasions with Wasserman, and he is brilliant. And I actually thought it all came together in that second fight against Billam-Smith in terms of it felt like his team was sorted. It felt like he was happy with Brian McIntyre, and that whole thing came together. He looked well conditioned. It was a great performance, and he went into Manchester again, which was full of Liverpool fans, and put on a performance like that. Obviously, Liam, of course, was injured, but it was still it felt like that was a moment for Chris. So the key for him is to keep that up and be active, and it's a shame he's not been active since. So I'd like to see him active. I'd like to see him go for the world title that's evaded him. Every promoter and every broadcaster will be lucky to have him because he does drive numbers, creates a lot of interest.
We saw, I think earlier this week or late last week, Artem Petreviev suffered an injury and unfortunately had to pull out of the undisputed clash with Dimitri Bivol. I saw a little bit of rumour swirling online that possibly Joshua Buatsi could be someone to step into the shoes. Is there a possibility there?
We want that fight. We have asked for it. We are ready. However, I think they've gone in another route. It is what it is. Buatsi's number 1 in 3 of the governing bodies. We'd have hoped to have announced the Yard fight by now. But we will have news on Josh Buatsi this month. He's someone whose profile's gone through the roof. That Dan Aziz fight was a huge moment for us, for him, the way it sold, the numbers that it did, and we want to keep up that momentum and keep him active. And yeah, that's the key for us and Josh now.
As it's been a little while since I spoke to you, there are a couple of things from the last few months I'd like to speak to you about. Major Majid, the Sunday Times article that was brought up a few months ago now, his links possibly with BOXXER, they saw about the money changing hands. What was your reaction when that article came out?
Look, I spoke about it at the time. He's worked in boxing far longer before than I have, and there's plenty of people we have to work with in boxing, and I said at the time, we know where it's coming from, we do, and it's being dealt with. But I've spoken on that matter, and there's plenty of people in boxing that we have to work with.
Is he still involved with Joshua Buatsi's career, do you know? Or?
I think you'd have to ask Josh Buatsi about that.
Okay. Ben Whittaker, who's also going to be on that Chris Billam-Smith, Richard Riakporhe card. We saw you out in the US with him and sort of working on his image, which certainly doesn't need much work. He's incredibly the amount he's built for himself. How much of a star can he become?
Look, I've not worked with fighters before that can attract the interest that Ben attracts because it's so rare. I mean, to find someone in his position attracting the amount of attention, never mind in the UK but in the US as well, is special. The numbers he does is special. The talent he has is special, but most importantly, he's very, very dedicated. The key is to get him to the top of the sport. It's not to be a viral sensation. That will come with it. That stuff takes care of itself because of who he is. The key is now to develop in the ring, to get him to the top of the division, and to achieve his legacy. We've seen what he can do in the amateur sport. People talk about his toughness. He's fought the Cubans, he's fought the Russians, he's fought the Eastern Europeans. He's extremely tough, extremely talented, and the key is to keep him active. I mean, all it's taken is he had a lot of time out last year. He's then fought in December. He's fought in February, he's fought in March, he'll now fight in June, and the way he's blown up is incredible. We just want to keep him fit, active, healthy, taking the right fights, and creating a superstar, because British boxing and boxing needs superstars, and I believe he's the next one.
Is there any concern that you've built him up to this incredible level and there's a possibility that he goes to another promoter during that time, or are you fully convinced that he'll be a boxer fighter for many years to come?
Look, he's in a long-term contract, and it's very, very early days, and so the journey we've been on in such a short period of time, it hasn't even started yet. So as much as people are looking at how big we've got him to now, there's so many levels to this. When we sat down, the goal was to try and become the face of the sport, and people might laugh, and they probably laughed then, but they're probably still laughing now. But look at what he's doing, and look at the numbers that he's doing, and we think we can take boxing to new audiences, and just got to continue keeping him active, working hard, and very special talent.
We finally had the launch press conference last week for Felix Cash and Tyler Denny. Tyler obviously going over and fighting on a Matchroom card. We know that relationship hasn't been in the best of places over the last few months. How would you describe that relationship at the moment?
Hopefully okay. I mean, Tyler Denny, as you said, will go into and fight Felix Cash and headlines the Matchroom show, which is fantastic, in his hometown as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. I hope I'll be there on that night, which will be interesting. And Tyler's become a great friend, and someone that we're really proud of his journey and where we've got him to. So to be headlining a Matchroom show now is special. But I hope maybe it can be the start of many fights together. I think there's plenty of fights to be made. And I think it will happen. It's always going to be difficult coming in new. But I feel and I can see that there are fights to be made that make sense for both of us, and I think it's going to happen this year. You'll start to see a few more.
You're going to be obviously in the same room, in the same building as Eddie Hearn on that night when you attend. How's that going to be for you? I
hope it's going to be good. I hope it makes that night will be the start of fights that we can make. With Matchroom, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing Tyler headline. I'm looking forward to seeing Tyler take on a very tough fight, but a fight I believe he can win because of the way he's come on, and I feel like he's so focused now. He's extremely confident. But no, it'll be interesting to do it's there, to have our fighter fighting theirs for one of the first times on a Matchroom show, and hopefully the first of many.
How do you reflect these months on the pullouts, as they were sort of phrased, that have been linked with yourself, and the attention, not always good attention, that's been garnered from other promoters, and how you've sort of dealt with that?
I think I look back and look back on the Clark and Wardley and think good decision, because I'll always put the fighters first. This isn't to do with broadcasters. This is to do with making sure a fighter's ready for a fight, or it's the right opportunity, or makes him the most money. And often it's a collective decision. There's plenty of times where the managers will take it out of your hands. Of course, a lot has been made of it, especially that one. The noise was just ridiculous at the time. And I remember as a young promoter at the time, it was like, wow, it felt like I'd fucking murdered someone. But I look back at that night on March the 31st, and both fighters are very grateful. Both fighters know it was right. It's definitely right for Fraser Clark. That 12-round war needed all the preparation it could get, and possibly was slightly on the early side regardless. Yeah. And so, I think you've got to have thick skin in this game and just make the decision, be able to look yourself in the mirror and know that you did the best for the people around you. And we always want to make the best fights and the biggest fights, and we've seen those fights happen. Richard Riakporhe will fight in a stadium. He was our first signing at Sky, so to see that journey come full circle and he now get his big moment is huge. But no, hopefully it's behind us, and hopefully there's some big fights that we can make.
Final thing for you, obviously rumours swirling. We know that the Sky contract with BOXXER coming towards an end, the end of this year. Do you have full confidence that will be renewed?
No, it's the end of next year, but I think, there was a lot of talk about Sky coming out of boxing when the Matchroom relationship ended and they lost all their fighters. This is a long-term journey for us. Long-term journey for them. We've had to amass a stable in 2 years and throw things together, and it's not been easy at times. You're talking competing against established stables and established promoters, and coming in and having to create shows from scratch, and so the development that we've had so far has been incredible. The fighters coming through, the fact that we've, you look at the schedule this year, you've got Maya Jonas, Buatsi Aziz, Wardley Clark, now Lauren Price fighting for her world title, Lawrence Okoli getting here, another world title opportunity. Then you've got the stadium, Riakpur against Chris Billam-Smith in a huge card. You can't do anything more for in our position for British boxing, and we'll continue to do that. But if there was ever a time that Sky, I think we're going to stop, it was then. We've invested a lot, and there's a big future, and there's a lot of stars and a lot of talent coming through, and I think British boxing would be a sorry place without Sky Sports in it, without the regional shows, without the shows like this, without the big domestic fights. For me, that's what gets me up in the morning. I think a lot of fans most enjoy, if you really ask them, it's the domestic nights, and we'll continue to do that.
Ben, really appreciate your time. Good to catch up.
Cheers, mate.